Governor McCrory, to start off with, what were the biggest education challenges that you confronted when you came into the office?
I think we had several huge education challenges, and we continue to do that. One is we needed to break down the silos of education. And June's been a great partner in that. The Education Cabinet, which by charter has been supposed to be getting together the people in charge of preschool, June Atkinson, the head of the university system, the head of the community college system, they had not been meeting for over 3 years. And Eric Gucan, who was my education advisor up until last week, got us all together, and we started, instead of acting as though we were 4 different silos of education, we needed to act as one silo of education. That is K0 through 20, and even K0 through adult learning. And start talking about sharing our budgets, start talking about sharing our philosophies, start talking about sharing strategies, start talking about sharing resources. And we've made great progress in the past 2 years in doing just that, and just beginning to trust each other as opposed to competing against each other with each silo, which is the typical thing we tend to do in government. The second thing that we had a major challenge on was that there is a skills gap in North Carolina and in our nation. And you may have been talking about this, but employers throughout the state of North Carolina, as I recruit new employers, were saying we have job openings, but we cannot fill the people. We cannot find the people with the right skills to fill the jobs. This is primarily in mechanics, electronics, IT, nursing, accountants, and the list goes on. And that made our job to recruit and retain industry even more difficult. So we thought there was a disconnect between education and commerce, and we needed to bring those two together. And then we had some immediate issues. In K through 12, our teachers had not been given pay raises except for step-up increases for experienced teachers in the past 5 or 6 years, partly due to the recession, partly due to politics and other things. And we were losing teachers, especially we weren't recruiting entry-level teachers because we had teachers making approximately $30,000 a year entry-level, and they were stuck on that salary for the first 7 years. And we saw that the attrition was highest between 1 and 7 years, so we worked with the legislature to get salary increases to increase the base pay from $30,000 a year, regardless of where you live, to $35,000 a year, a $5,000 increase, which we're going to fulfill in this budget. In fact, in the continuing resolution, we'll have that included, that no matter what, the teachers will get that $35,000 in additional supplements where you give supplements. The list goes on. We had some challenges in the community colleges where part of the skills gap, I noticed our spending formula was encouraging numbers as opposed to results, which meant the high-cost courses with lower numbers of people, like mechanics and auto and things of this nature, were being paid for, but not at the same rate as cheaper courses. So the direction of some of our community colleges was, let's take the cheaper courses with high volume, but no one gets a job, versus the low volume but higher cost courses, but we have 100% placement. And we changed the formula in my first year as governor to ensure that we reward the results as opposed to numbers. And we need to do that everywhere in K through 12 community colleges and our universities, and continually adjust, looking at what are the results of the education versus the entry point. And that's one of our great challenges, to fill the skills gap for North Carolina.
I'd love to hear what your position is on the need for teacher assistants.
Well, I think there is a need for teachers' assistants. But what I refuse to do is get into a debate on the state making the decision for each school. I personally believe we ought to have teacher assistants, especially first, second, and third grade. But each school is different. So what I think we ought to do in the budget, and what I've done in my budget, and I had a meeting this morning with legislative leaders, and I expressed this very strongly, is that I think we ought to give the same set amount of money with the necessary increases due to the increase in students in North Carolina, and let the schools decide on, do you want student assistants, do you want more teachers, or do you want a combination of both? And even within school districts, every school has different needs. And I think that's a decision for the superintendent of schools to make, or for the principals to make, or even for teachers to make among themselves, and not for Raleigh to make. Because even within counties, there are many, many different types of schools, and teachers' assistants may apply better to this school than at other schools based upon the makeup of the students or what they're teaching and many other factors that are involved. So I don't believe in across-the-board decisions for every school system coming out of Raleigh, nor do I believe it should come out of Washington. So if I say that about Washington, telling us how to do things, why should we in Raleigh be telling each school superintendent and principal and teacher how to do things? I want to give you as much flexibility as possible because each circumstance throughout our state is completely different. So I want to provide enough money where if the teacher's assistants are needed, they can hire the teacher's assistants. If they don't want the teacher's assistants, they can then hire more teachers.